Welcome. This is David Boles, Human Meme. Today's topic: Genesis of Moral Authority. And therefore think him as a serpent's egg, which, hatched, would as his kind grow mischievous, and kill him in the shell. Julius Caesar, Act 2, Scene 1. As Shakespeare asks, are we born without morality? Or is morality spent within us? Does our moral core, the secret code that makes us, does that moral core assist us in coding and in inherently knowing and in choosing between right and wrong? And if so, where does that knowing begin? Does that knowing start in the womb, the board room, or the pew? Is it possible to live a right life without the guiding compass of a moral core? Do our parents set us right from the beginning, with behavioral examples that we imitate, all in proper company and in the light of day in the correct manner? When and how do we twist away from our inherent goodness and turn bad and become the below of us in expectation and execution? Yes, my human meme friend, these are the questions of living. These are the temperatures that endure us and destroy us. Many years ago, the great Pope John Paul II counseled Catholics that they could believe in evolution and still remain good Catholics in church and faith and of being, as long as they also believed that it is God who puts the soul in man. And we must remember, John Paul II was a scientist and a genius and a thinker. And we know there are dumber, but decidedly not less religious, others of us out there than he, who refuse to endorse the matter of evolution and of being and of spirit as part of the context of morality. And so it is our duty to pity them and to teach them, because their forsakenness is unbecoming, and they refuse to accept all the gifts from God and the gods that include rational thinking, logic, and the application of knowing, all into helping break the darkness of the shell. We have always invented stories and myths to enforce behavior. Do this. Don't be like that. Follow this path, or you'll regret living in the hollow. And such our sacred myths are shared as both lessons and warnings to help keep the core of us sanctified and safe. And you may have heard me discuss these sorts of universal truths and themes of being before here with you in this Human Meme podcast, and that's okay. Repetition is learning. We learn by doing. And memory exercises thought by flexing us to and fro, forward and back, into the depths, and far into the beyond. And all of that movement, it all creates behavior that is anticipatory and regulated and beyond the self. The great university teacher, Dr. Howard Stein, both friend and mentor, would commonly repeat a story, almost phrase for phrase, every third time or so you saw him in person. And Howard Stein was not being forgetful or reductive or conducive. Howard Stein was trying to make a reflexive point. And it was your moral obligation to listen. You listened because you wanted to know how to view and interact in the world as a properly formed person. Dr. Howard Stein repeated his stories, his myths, his inventions of living because he cared about you. Howard Stein tested you with attention because attention must be paid, and because he needed you to want to know. And so now we must wonder who has the right to say, I am more moral than thee. Well, I argue the only immoral among us would say that and brazenly claim that that is their ilk in life. Only the indelicate would dare to place themselves over the majority interest. And yes, you know, we have a lot of those types today in our world. And that is why it is always important to test and repeat and share what we know and who we think we want to become in the world. We earn our spot in the universe by rejecting deference and ceremony. We are more than our circumstance. We are beyond our beings. We are not where we come from. And in this reflection, how do we stand up to the hallowed minority who believe they are entitled to think and feel and behave for us, when all they are really doing is serving their own narrow, selfish interests of cruelty and disgust? We even have some leaders in the world today who believe people are stupid because they cannot learn. People get sick because they are immoral, and so they are unworthy of living a healthy life. And those awful people in the minority and in the minority mind reason this as well. Money is the sweet core of all being. If you cannot afford to be healthy, then you get what you deserve. Yes, they believe there is no role for government in providing for the public welfare. And here, in the United States of America, in our Declaration of Independence, our founders claimed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I ask you now, if the life part of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is not about health care and survival and living and vitality and not death and cursing and cruelty, then what exactly is life about? And there are others among us in government who believe we have no responsibility to each other. They say we're in this life only for ourselves. And those in the minority mind who actually believe and who have no caring want no one to have health insurance or proactive health care. They do not care what it means to have a public safety net. And so those cruel people among us, many of them elected to serve the needs and dreams of we the people, they think we get what we deserve, And if we are born poor or stupid or disabled, then whatever happens to us is what happens to us. They think our predestiny is merely to suffer, and to suffer entirely until the end. If we happen to live in a floodplain, or if we happen to become ill, or if we happen to age too much too slowly, and if we happen to stick around too long, then we are obligated to fight or die. There's no in-between. There's no place of grace for us to hide and seek shelter and sanction from the inevitable end that always catches each of us at the denouement of our endgame, no matter how wealthy or healthy we appear to be on the surface. And so, dear friend, in this fiery end, an end that nobody seeks but that we all deserve, we end up in the same gravure, splayed and embarrassed in public, once upon a cold wooden slab. And there we are, staring up at the stars and asking the heavens for meaning and a reason for being beyond the dim reality that we have lived out our usefulness, and that we are now ready to darken away into merely existence. An existence where we are left afloat and wonder how this end tricked us into thinking we were born alone, to simply die alone, and to play along in the middle part of our living that persuaded us into divine disengagement, beyond the sleuth and the saber and the soul, where only the weeping lonesome really get to know what it means to live unattended, unattached, and unwittingly, all in the center of a boundless universe of believing against the drawing darkness, and of ending just as we began, by being killed in the shell. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.